Everybody line up. Shoulder to shoulder. Take off your backpacks. Basketball, line up. We're about to race. Hey, we are racing for a $100 bill. The winner of this race will take this. A $100 bill. Before I say go, I'm going to make a couple statements. If those statements apply to you, I want you to take 2 steps forward. If those statements don't apply to you, I want you to stay right where you're at. Take 2 steps forward if both of your parents are still married. Take 2 steps forward if you grew up with a father figure in the home. Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a private education. Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a free tutor growing up. Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to worry about your cell phone being shut off. Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to help mom or dad with the bills. Take 2 steps forward if it wasn't because of your athletic ability, you don't have to pay for college. Take 2 steps forward if you never wondered where your next meal was going to come from. I want you guys up here in the front just to turn around and look. Every statement I've made has nothing to do with anything any of you have done. Has nothing to do with decisions you've made. Everything I have said has nothing to do with what you've done. We all know these people up here have a better opportunity to win this $100. Does that mean these people back here can't race? No. We would be foolish to not realize we've been given more opportunity. We don't want to recognize that we've been given a head start. But the reality is we have. Now, there's no excuse. They still got to run their race. You still got to run your race. But whoever wins this $100, I think it'd be extremely foolish of you not to utilize that and learn more about somebody else's story. Because the reality is, if this was a fair race and everybody was back on that line, I guarantee you some of these black dudes would smoke all of you. And it's only because you have this big of a head start that you're possibly going to win this race called life. That is a picture of life, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing you've done has put you in the lead that you're in right now. When I say go, on your mark, get set, go! If you didn't learn anything from this activity, you're a fool.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us and welcome to this webinar where I'll be presenting a vision for a more diverse and inclusive future for hockey in this country. First of all, a big thank you to everyone who supported the movement so far. We've really been overwhelmed with the response, and I'd like to think that had this been Friday, 25th of June, that the same number of you would still have signed up for this evening, but I suspect I may be wrong. And this has been a bit of a journey since last summer when some of the stories first broke out about what had been going on in the sport at all levels. And Along the way, a lot of people reached out to me and volunteered their time, and we created a core group of people who wanted to get involved and were passionate about seeing change in this country for the better and in hockey as a whole. And that core group grew into a larger group of people from a variety of backgrounds, as well as clubs from up and down the country, and also non-hockey people as well. And that's fantastic. So a massive thank you to that core group and everyone else who's got involved so far. Now, when some of the stories broke last summer, I was determined that it wouldn't just be a story. This is about so much more. This is about the future of hockey, but also what type of nation we want to be. Because there's those who have heard who say that we as a sport can't solve society's problems. But I disagree. And I want to get across that inequalities in sport lead to inequalities in health and society, which become all of our problems. And it's society's problem, which we all end up collectively paying for. And I want you to bear in mind throughout this presentation and beyond that giving people opportunities in sport and leisure gives people a focus, and facilities change the dynamics of a community. And sport changes health, which in turn changes lives and improves society as a whole. And we want to use hockey as a driver and a tool for social change and help give people more opportunities for a better life. And by working together, I know that we can solve this problem. So tonight, I want to go over what the all-in vision is and some tangible goals that we'd like to see achieved. Well, I'm Gurmej and I'm the chairman of an inner city Birmingham-based hockey club, and I've helped co-found the all-in movement. And this evening, we'll also hear from two GB players, Emily and Rhys, who are also extremely passionate about seeing the sport that they love become more diverse and inclusive. And I also think it's important to point out that All In is a collaborative movement. We want to have an approach where we involve all stakeholders. But if there's a problem, it needs to be addressed. And essentially, that's why we're here. Because before last summer, there wasn't really a means for people to be heard on the issue. And if I'm being honest, conversations I've had with people show me that it's often been brushed under the carpet, especially when it comes to racism and social inequalities in hockey. So today is about a vision for a more diverse and inclusive future, as well as about how you can get involved. And I want to start by telling you a story about two young hockey players of the same age, Jack and Joe. Jack lives in a southern county and started playing hockey because members of his family played. He also plays regularly at school, which is a private school, and he'd come through the ranks through a large club with their own facilities. And he gets regular training, and his parents are very supportive, and they're able to pay for his kit, his sticks, and his trainers and memberships. And he's considered to be a very good, reliable hockey player. He gets selected to go to a performance centre, which is quite a few miles away, and his parents happily take him along. And Jack fits in well, he performs well, and is considered to be a reliable, solid hockey player, and gets selected for a national youth squad, which is brilliant. Now, I want you to meet Joe. Joe lives in a northern city. He got into hockey because one of his mates from school plays, so he thought he'd go and see what the crack is. And he joins in on the weekends. He gets lifts to training from his mates' parents. And it turns out that he's really talented at hockey and he picks it up really well. So he gets pushed to attend an open performance centre day by his club, which is brilliant. But the cost is £90 to attend. And his parents can't afford it. So the club, who believe in him, actually pay for him. And another parent from the club kindly takes him along. Now, when Joe pulls up to the performance centre, he sees all the nice fancy cars and supportive parents, and he feels a bit nervous and a bit out of place. This isn't an environment that he's used to, but nonetheless, his talent can't be denied and it shines through, and the selectors have no choice but to take notice and select him for a national youth squad. Now, Jack and Joe end up being in the same squad, and Jack has no problems in going to training. He gets coaching at school, and his parents happily travel wherever is required on the weekends. But Joe, he has to find lifts any way he can. Sometimes he has to get the bus or the train, which means he can be late, but he manages to make the most of the sessions. Jack fits in really well with the coaches and other players. They all have similar backgrounds, ways of talking and interests. And Joe, he finds everyone polite on the surface, but he feels a bit out of place. He doesn't really talk like them, interact like them, and his mates back home are very, very different. But Joe works hard and his talent continues to shine, and he really loves hockey, but his coaches have concerns that he doesn't quite fit the model, as sometimes he doesn't react to situations how they'd expect him to. And when it comes to camps and downtime, and the squad decide to go and play golf, Joe decides to opt out because last time he went, everyone laughed at his swing because he'd never set foot on a golf course, never mind gone to hit the links with his mates. So ultimately, Joe has a choice about his interactions with squad members and coaches. Now, he can take the option to be the member who doesn't really connect or interact and then go and sit in the corner, or he can invest time and mental effort in trying to be something that he's not. Jack doesn't have that issue. He fits in great, understands everything his coaches ask, and because of what he sees at his club and school, and people are similar to him at every step, he fits in the mold perfectly. And eventually he makes the Olympic squad. No one can deny that Joe's a very talented hockey player, but in the end, he doesn't quite make the cut of going to the Olympic Games. And he's devastated, and he asks his coaches for feedback, and they tell him two things. Number one, your fitness was a concern. And number two, you didn't fit the system. Now, Jack and Joe may seem like fictional characters, but I didn't make their stories up. This is based on simplified and watered down accounts of players going through the system and who've been through the system. This is the reality of our sport. And this is a story about probabilities. Now, there's loads of reasons why Jack makes it into the GB squad. But for Joe, ultimately, it's continuously having to fight and negotiate a brick wall. The access to the performance centres, the cost of training, the coaches and their lack of understanding of his background and how to get the best out of him. Whereas Jack, on the other hand, he has a clean slate. He looks, he talks, he sounds like the other players, the coaches, the AH staff, the board. There's no prejudgments, no lines of walls. And I've had conversations with board members at the governing body, and they say that this is about money, getting more sticks into people's hands. I've been told that they look at the easiest route to do that, follow the money, the bigger clubs, the hockey centres, the private school system, the role models, the coaches, the infrastructure, all being pushed towards that. But you don't need to be working for Elon Musk, firing rockets into Mars to see what's going on here. The system's rigged. And remember that this is a sport funded by us all. And I'll stress again that a lack of diversity and inclusion in sport isn't just a sport problem, it's a society problem. This is the England Cricket World Cup winning team. And yeah, there have been problems in the past and there's still issues in cricket. But if you look at what the England World Cup winning cricket team achieved. Everything that Owen Morgan did with that diverse and talented squad was geared towards ensuring that the culture was inclusive and everyone, no matter their background, felt part of that. So back to All In, what does it represent? It means that there isn't an approach of dipping one's toes in to tackle inequality. You're in it or you're against it. And if you're committed to fighting inequality in hockey, ask yourself what you've done to diminish the structures of inequality. You either commit to it or by doing nothing, you reaffirm it. And we've put together a simple message, All In's 3 A's: acknowledge, assess, and act. Now, this can apply to you as a person, a club, a region, or a governing body. If you see inequality, call it out and acknowledge it. Assess what the problem is and what can be done to help towards solving it, and then act on it. And this is our vision for a more inclusive and diverse future in the game. First of all, we'd like to see an actively promoted national strategy for promoting the sport within state schools, an active education programme for regions, clubs, umpires, coaches and players on D&I on the same scale as safeguarding, national coaches to engage and mentor coaches from clubs from more deprived and inner city areas, the EH board of directors to match the demographics of our society by 2023, the 2028 Olympic squad to match the demographics of our society, and 50% of the 2028 GB squad coming from state schools. And by 2028, we'd like to see the national coaching setup to match the demographics of our society. Now, I'm really proud of this country. I'm proud to be British, as I am to be Punjabi as well. And I want to see our squads getting gold. And I believe that we're really well placed and can do this by tapping in to our rich and our diverse society. So let's look forward. What impact can this diversity have on this country? Well, first of all, giving access to sport and healthy lifestyles, improving local community environments by giving access to sports facilities, making young people feel better about their prospects in life, creating jobs in local economies, creating community unity, having a sports team to focus on, back and enjoy, and producing role models for future generations to look up to. Now, this is really important, as the new Vice President of the US says, you can't be what you can't see. So having those role models to look up to makes a big difference. And how can you get involved in this movement? Well, first of all, get your club to sign up to the All In mission. The website's hockeyallin.co.uk. Write to your local region and your national governing body, encouraging them to sign up. Socialise the vision, follow us on Twitter, join our WhatsApp group conversation, share the logo across social media, and buy one of these cool t-shirts, a sticker, or a face mask. And just a note, we're currently just a volunteer organisation, and all the monies will go directly towards the t-shirt manufacturers. This is just about us getting the message out there, and I'd love to see the GB squads wearing these t-shirts. And what do you get in return? Access to a quarterly webinar, access to the discussion group, and being part of the conversation and being part of the future, because inevitably history will be on our side on this. And before handing over to Rhys, I just want to finish by giving you a quote from the great Nelson Mandela. Sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to unite people. in a way that little else does. Sport can awaken hope where there was once despair. Sport speaks to people in a language they can understand. So let's embrace and be inclusive with the diversity of this country. And I promise you that amazing things can happen as we actually benefit and prosper from what makes us different. And on that note, I'd like to hand over to Rhys. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Gurmej. Yeah, obviously I hadn't heard your presentation in full and absolutely loved it. Very powerful. The video at the start, yeah, absolutely loved it. It was quite emotional actually to hear. Hello, everyone. Yeah, my name is Rhys Smith. Part of the current GB Senior International Program and professional hockey player for Wimbledon Hockey Club. And I'm also founder and director of Hockey in a City, which is a community interest company set up to increase the accessibility of hockey. Now, a little bit about my background. Educationally, I went to a local state primary school in Streatham Common, Southwest London. And I was fortunate to get a bursary to Whitgift School, where I started in year 6, and I was introduced to hockey at Whitgift School. From Whitgift, I then went on to attend Durham University, and leaving Durham University, I then joined the GB hockey program. So I'm going to talk about why I set up Hockey in a City, and also our how at Hockey in a City, which relates to what I would like to see more of in the hockey community, and especially with all of us having the same goals of diversifying the population that play hockey. So why I set it up was based on my time at Durham University. I was frustrated whilst there because there was a lack of representation from my background, so inner city London. And this wasn't due to lack of ability, it was due to lack of opportunity. And I couldn't help see the parallels between the demographic that dominated Durham, which is white, middle class, privileged, and that in the hockey world. And it's very simple in my eyes. And this is just a generalization. Not everyone is like this, but if you have money, you will send your children to the best schools, and they will prepare them in life to go to the best universities and get best jobs. And hockey is played predominantly in these best schools, these private schools. So it frustrated me, especially being from Streatham Common, from Southwest London. And when I left university, I realized I had a platform for being a senior international hockey player, but also a platform on social media from some of the hockey freestyle videos that I was releasing, and seeing the impact I could actually have on the younger generation and how they looked up to me. And I wanted to use that platform to create positive impact, positive change about something I'm really passionate about. And that's to increase the accessibility of hockey, but also increase the awareness of opportunities available to our children through hockey. For example, scholarship schemes and bursary schemes. So moving on to our how. Now, for us, how is very, very important. How we conduct ourselves, how we coach, how we interact with our players and their parents. And to really get our how, I had to draw on previous experiences, which initiated and grew my love for the sport, which helped me excel throughout the pathway, and what allowed me to be part of the hockey family, which I'm sure everyone here knows is a wonderful family. It's a wonderful community. It's very small. Everyone knows each other. And my best friends today have come from the hockey community. So I grouped my previous experiences into kind of like the 3 most significant, and they are as follows. So I've got individuals that take their time to assist at club level, Whitgift School, and role models like Gurmej touched upon. So club hockey taught me that when you're coaching, you need to show that you care. And you need to show that you care through your actions, and you're showing your care to the children. So for me, when I was between under 12s and under 15s, I was at Old Middlewick Giftians Hockey Club, and there was a group of us from school and the local schools around us, and all we wanted to do was play hockey. We all had a love for hockey, and we just wanted to play as much hockey as possible. And the director of hockey at the club wasn't getting paid much at all, went above and beyond his role to allow us to do exactly that. He organized extra games for us. He would let us off on subs. He would give us free socks and free kit. He would organize transport for everyone on the day of the game. You knew exactly where you're getting picked up, getting dropped off. Sometimes it was door-to-door service, very occasionally. And Kevin, in doing this, created unforgettable moments and shared experiences that has formed very strong bonds between myself and Kevin, but also myself and the rest of the players within the club system that we had the experiences together with. And this period of time really grew my love for the sport. It really motivated me to achieve higher things. And I think for everyone involved in that time, it was just such a memorable experience that can't be traded for anything. And if I see people from that club, we will always joke about times we had together. So secondly was Whitgift. And Whitgift taught me, you have to make it easy, you have to make it enjoyable, you must stretch individuals, and you must create an environment in which you can really thrive in. So at Whitgift, we had lunchtime sessions, and you could go down any single lunchtime you wanted to, take off your school shoes, put on Astros, sticks and balls are provided, and you could just go onto the hockey pitch. You could join in with the sessions that were being delivered, or you could go on to any part of the pitch and just play. You could bring your friends on and play. And it was very enjoyable because you were playing with your friends, or you were doing what you wanted to do and being taught how to play hockey. Also, what was enjoyable was the fact that our training sessions were extremely competitive and they were challenging. And that encompasses playing with your friends. There's a lot of enjoyable and memorable times to have had. Stretching individuals, well, when I was under 15s, I played in the first team and we won a national title. Now, would we have won had I not been in the team? Probably. So, I wasn't there to add masses of value to the squad, but it was a great experience for me to be able to play with older players who were junior internationals that I look up to, and also prepared me for when I was that age and looking down to the youngsters and being a role model for them. So that helped me excel throughout the pathway. And lastly, just creating an environment which at Whitgift, it was fantastic. When I went there, we were just winning national titles, and there was a real buzz around the sport within the school. So when I was playing football at lunchtime as a youngster, and the olders were kicking my ball down the hill, and I just wanted something else to do, I turned to hockey because it was known. And that kind of buzz around the school got people into hockey. Secondly, being in the lunchtime sessions, there was such a range of ages and a range of abilities that you were interacting and playing with people that you looked up to, that were junior internationals, that were highly respected in the sport at the school, and you got to know them. So when you're in the corridors during the school, you get to say hello to them. It just makes you feel part of the school, part of the hockey family. And it's something that just helps you and makes it more enjoyable to go down at lunchtime, something you look forward to. And, that is something that you really need to create, that buzz to want to go to hockey. Lastly, I put down role models, and I could spend a lot of time talking about that. But yeah, I've kind of put role models that you can relate to and form good relationships with. So for me, I've written down Nigel De Cruz, Darren Cheeseman, Carl Stagno, Quan Brown, and Ashley Jackson, and they're all role models for different reasons. So, but they all come together, and what I can get from each one is that I've got a really good relationship with them, where now I can ring them up, I can message them, and have a conversation with them about anything. So Nigel De Cruz, he taught me how to play hockey from the get-go, how to hold a stick, the technical aspects of things. And he was great because he had banter. He was from West London. He got a lot of the kids, but he was also very honest. Darren Cheeseman, for me, was a big inspiration because, you know, he looked like me, he was mixed race, he was a GB player, but also, it sounds weird, but he got the trains to games, and I had to do that throughout my whole life. This is when we didn't have Uber, there wasn't much taxi, so it was trains and walking to pitches. And just seeing him get the train to a pitch was just like, wow, this is quite cool. And he was someone who was very personable, quite cool to chat with, and yeah, definitely a big inspiration for me. Carl Stagno is someone that's still in my life. Met him when I was under 15s, and yeah, like he's just developed me from a tactical perspective, and the biggest reason is probably understanding, you know, why I do stuff. Why are you running in this direction? Why are you running in that direction? And for me, it's the care that comes across with that. You can tell he's the game. It's very infectious, and the care that and the time he takes out of his schedule to always answer my calls, to always provide feedback is second to none. Quan Brown was my coach at Under-16s, and obviously and you know, I grew up in my Caribbean household. Quan's Caribbean. He was like the only Black hockey player I knew that was from the Caribbean and had such a great reputation. And he's just someone I wanted him to rate me. You know, I wanted to impress him. And I think it's very important to have that, just as extra motivation. And lastly, Ashley Jackson, who, you know, different backgrounds, you know, I won't say we grew up in the same way, or we obviously we don't look the same, but again, someone who takes his time and shows that he cares through taking his time out to really help me. So when I came back from international games, he literally went through all of my individual clips. He didn't need to, and he commented on every single one. So what I'm trying to say is role models are fantastic to have. They inspire you, they motivate you, they really get you wanting to play hockey more and wanting you to improve. So as a result of those three, I guess, experiences that I've drawn on, we've encompassed all of that together in our How at Hockey in the City, or we're trying to. And you know, we definitely have achieved what we set out to do. You know, we've grown a love for the sport in people that wouldn't normally have the opportunity to play. We've got people from our clubs into hockey clubs outside of school, and we've created a buzz in the school around hockey. And I love the fact that we've done it, and we've got more to do. But for now, that's me. So I will pass on to Emily.
Yeah, Rhys, thank you so much for that. Some great stuff there, and I'll come back to a couple of questions in a bit. We'll move on to Emily for now. Emily, are you still there? You haven't disappeared on us. All right, just come back.
I'm here. Don't you worry. Yeah, no, thank you so much. And just I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, Gurmej, for obviously inviting me onto the webinar this evening. But having heard both yourself and Rhys just then, it just really does inspire me to continue to work on what we're all trying to aspire within our sport. So thank you both for sharing all of that with us. But yeah, hi everyone, good evening. Just to introduce myself, I'm Emily Defroand. I'm a current Great Britain hockey player. I'm a Commonwealth Games and European bronze medalist. And I just want to kind of give, you know, my background and maybe the reason why I'm so passionate about, you know, this whole inclusion and diversity within hockey. So I grew up in Hornchurch, Essex, in the London Borough of Havering, which is East London. And throughout my childhood, I think sport was massive. Sport was a huge part of my childhood, mainly because I had 2 older brothers, which I idolised, and they played every sport under the sun. So I guess I was always going to do the same. But obviously my main love was hockey. And this came through me going to watch my mum play at the weekends, and it'd be the highlight of my week. I'd be taking everyone's hockey sticks whilst they're on the sideline or resting, and of course havoc by running up and down the side of the hockey pitch. And if I look back at that little girl that began watching her mum play and then first picked up a hockey stick age 7, I don't think I would have quite appreciated what a massive impact hockey has actually had on my life. And as the guys have already touched upon, hockey is a sport which is probably predominantly played in public, private schools by white middle class. And I went to a state school. I went to state school at primary school and secondary school. I loved my school years. I look back with such fond memories. But when I look back, particularly in primary school, for example, we didn't really have too much sport access. We didn't really play too much. In year 6, there was a football team for the boys, which I managed to jump in on that. I was the only girl in the boys team, which I'm still very proud of. And the girls played netball. I didn't like netball as much because it restricted my movement of where I was allowed to go on the pitch, but that's another story. But both clubs were run by volunteer parents, and these parents came in once a week, gave up their time, and that was it. And at that time, if I look back, I loved playing football and hockey probably quite equally. I'd play at my local hockey club once or twice a week, and then I'd play football with my brothers in the garden, on the streets outside my house, pretty much every day. I'd be head to toe in football strips. And yeah, I do think probably at that time hockey and football were on par with each other. But the lack of girls' football team at my primary school and at secondary school and in my local area, I think kind of halted my participation in that sport. But back to hockey, I'm very happy that that was the case, because obviously the sport has given me so much in my life. But at secondary school, I was actually really lucky to go to a state school that did offer hockey as part of the curriculum. And that additional contact time that I got each week was a big deal to play by a young, enthusiastic PE teacher that joined the school at the same time that I joined the school, aged 11. Now, my PE teacher didn't have too much hockey experience herself or knowledge of the game. She was kind of winging it, bless her, but she was so enthusiastic about, offering the opportunity for her students to play sport and play hockey. And we were given hockey one term of a school year. We had one PE lesson, which lasted about 30 minutes. And then again, I was really lucky. Our school also offered extracurricular lessons. And if the teacher wasn't swayed elsewhere and didn't have any other extra commitments, that would be on offer as well. So, as you can imagine, a young, keen hockey player, there's no surprise like what term of the year I enjoyed the most. But yeah, if you're looking back now, the contact time was minimal. But I still feel extremely fortunate to have gone to that state school, because hockey was part of the curriculum, and I did have a teacher that wanted to, put all of her enthusiasm and desire into offering hockey to her students. I was lucky because my school also offered, these extracurricular activities at lunchtimes or after school. And, even though I look back and it's quite funny really, but like our hockey sticks, they were like usually twice the size of all of us, and they're probably older than all of us put together, but we loved it. And I look back now and I think, well, if I went to the state school 20 meters down the road from mine, they didn't have hockey as part of their curriculum. And it wouldn't be surprising if my experiences and my development within the sport I love so much would be completely different had I not gone to the school that I did. And I guess I want to share a few stories as well from my time at school, because they were genuinely some of my most fondest memories playing this sport. And I played alongside my best friends that are still, like Rhys said, that are still some of my closest friends now. And we were so competitive. We loved it. We loved playing against other schools. And the reason being was because, you know, I do think there is the social stereotype that hockey is a public-private school sport. And attending a state school from Essex with a bunch of girls with very strong Cockney Essex accents, we experienced that stereotype all the time. You know, I think back at tournaments that we played in, and we turned up and we'd get the standard comments like, oh, here come the Essex Pikeys. We get called with Oompa Loompas, a bunch of nutters from the ghetto. Honestly, we had it all. And this wasn't just like in our county matches, like county rounds. It was throughout regional, national levels. Wherever we went, we got called these, you know, ridiculous comments through that stereotype of being a state school from Essex. And even now, like, I think I've been very fortunate to be in the GB centralised programme for the since January 2017, and I still get comments, you know, about the way I talk and how I sound completely different to my Great Britain teammates, and how I don't wear enough fake tan or enough makeup to be an Essex girl, to be a true Essex girl. And I guess, if I'm being honest, this is something that I've started to really appreciate. And since the death of George Floyd last summer, it's kind of made me appreciate how far these cultural stereotypes do exist within our society. And with that, there are two things that I've tried to recognise and reflect on myself. Firstly, how widespread the different forms of discrimination do exist within our sport and within our society. For me personally, this is not just me being an Essex girl or being a state school kid. This is, you know, making sure that I appreciate there's not one single member of the GB women's hockey squad that is from an ethnic minority background. And with this, you know, I'm all too aware how this does not truly reflect the society that we live in, and more importantly, this doesn't reflect the community that I grew up in when I was younger either. And secondly, that this discrimination is, you know, not just upheld with those comments that I experienced when I was at school, or being mocked because of reality TV stereotypes that come with being from Essex. They are really upheld by the structures and institutions that support our sport and wider society. And it's as I've touched upon, it's, you know, being able to appreciate the lack of access to facilities, like the schools in my area who can't, you know, afford hockey sticks or have an AstroTurf to, you know, for hockey to be played on in the first instance. And then the imbalance of the curriculum, as I said, like some sports I appreciate prioritize some schools obviously prioritize some certain sports compared to others, and how, you know, for myself, how my life could have been completely different had I gone to the school 20 meters down the road. And then again, the PE teachers, the staff, you know, the lack of trained staff that are able to introduce and encourage young players, whatever their background is. And I guess like these issues are just not things that can become as individuals. Like, this is not just me saying that this is what I've experienced and this needs to improve. But as Gurmej says, it does require everyone coming together and working together and taking responsibility of this to try to improve, you know, the whatever areas that you can influence. And as Rhys touched upon, you know, I hold it really, really important to me that I'm so lucky to have the platform that I have as a Great Britain hockey player, and the influence that I can have, whether that be, you know, on my local club or my school, or simply through like conversations with family and friends. Like, we can all do it. It's something easy. And I think I want to touch on, I don't know, some of you might have seen this, some of you might not, but in October last year, the Great Britain women's squad, alongside the men, released a Stick It to Racism statement. And through this statement, we kind of held ourselves accountable for our actions, both individually and obviously collectively as two Great Britain squads. And with this, we're holding ourselves accountable for, you know, what we can do within our sport, but also within the society that we live in. So in terms of external commitments, I'd say that is through releasing a statement in the first place, and doing things such as, you know, having the stickers on our sticks, wearing the face mask, the outward show of support that we are against all forms of discrimination within our sport and within society. And also with doing this as well, is the internal commitment, and for us, our continued education and learning around the area. So speaking personally, as a women's squad, we have already had 5 workshops discussing inclusion and diversity on a more in-depth level. So this has been with like experts in the field, or former elite athletes that have been discussing their own experiences with us. And the whole process has been, you know, really important for all of us to commit to, and continue to commit to moving forwards. And I guess I'm just a firm believer that talent really doesn't discriminate, but other things can. So other things such as opportunity, your gender, ethnicity, disability, these can discriminate. And my aspirations, similar to what Rhys and Gurmej have said previously, my aspirations within our sport are to really have like a hockey family that we are so proud of, and where every member feels comfortable to be themselves, where they feel valued as much as the person standing next to them in their team, or on the opposite side of the pitch to them as the other team, and just to ultimately feel really proud to be part of the hockey family and to play our sport. And from my personal experience, I don't think it should matter which school you go to or the colour of your skin to do so.
Emily, thank you so much for sharing those experiences that you had. And again, I'm sure a lot of people could relate to them. And what I want to ask you both is about some of the work that you've done with inner cities, especially I know you've been working with Spencer Hockey Club. I've met with them yesterday, and some of the work they've been doing is truly amazing. And just more on the impact of the work that you've done and the impact it's had on some of those kids. I mean, Rhys, I'll ask you first. Give Emily a break.
Yeah, I think it's quite hard to fully know, you know, the impact you have on the children. But for me, the best way is seeing just their reactions. So with Spencer Links, I go there when I can, but I'm not a weekly coach. But every time I go there, they're so excited to see me. They're kind of like buzzing to get the session away. They always want to try and tackle me and play with me. And they're always trying to show me like new stuff they've been learning. So I think that speaks for itself in terms of the impact you can have just from, you know, relating to them and really taking time in your practice.
Emily?
Yeah, just to build on that, I guess. I think what really sticks out to me was one session. So I've been really fortunate to be joining with the Spencer Links for probably about a year now. And one of the sessions that I went to before Christmas, it was a Sunday afternoon, and it was absolutely chucking it down from start to finish. It was absolutely freezing. And I just remember thinking, like, there were so many children there, and they all did not stop smiling from start to finish, and they weren't worried about the rain, the cold. They were just so enthusiastic. And honestly, I think their enjoyment and their love for the sport was so clear, and that is just credit to projects such as Spencer Links that offer this opportunity. And of course, what you're doing, Rhys, with Inner City, it offers the opportunity to these children that wouldn't necessarily have picked up a hockey stick had it not been for these sort of initiatives. And for me personally, there's nothing more powerful than seeing that sort of thing happen in our sport. And it's those sort of projects that I think we need to really continue to build on moving forwards. And
I think, Rhys, me and you have spoken about this before, that especially in the inner city areas, maybe hockey's got a bit of a branding issue in urban areas with kids who don't really get it, maybe think it's just something for posh kids. They might not even know what hockey is. They think it's ice hockey or something like that. I mean, what kind of things do you think we can do to change that perception? Relating to your experiences.
Yeah, exactly that. I think okay, so to change the perception, I think you have to understand that if you're going into these schools where they're really quite ignorant about the sport, you have to make sure that that first interaction of hockey is like spectacular. You want them coming away like, oh, that was such a great session. And it doesn't necessarily have to be throughout all the hockey skills you do, but it's just the way you coach, like some of the games you may play with them, which are not even hockey related, but you play within the hockey stuff. And it's just kind of them associating hockey with fun. And in doing that, you know, their first experience of hockey will be a great experience. It won't be, yeah, I played it and it was cold and the vibrations of the stick hurt my hands. While the time they're doing that, they will already like the sport and it won't, you know, annoy them.
I mean, Emma, have you got any thoughts on that, from kind of coming from Essex and maybe the branding issue there as well?
Yeah, you know, for me, it's the stereotype. So as I touched upon, like, sport was a huge part of my childhood. But if I look back now, like, if you look at the pressures that current teenagers have on them in terms of social media and, you know, the reality TV perception of being an Essex girl, I genuinely think that could have an impact on whether young females from the area that I grew up in would think twice to even pick up a hockey stick in the first instance. They'd be too worried about the image that it comes with, you know, hockey being, you know, aggressive sport. It hurts your back. It's cold. You get wet. All that what Rhys said. But I think that all the time, and like, I experienced it at school. Like, there was so many talented hockey players at our school, and I just think if only they had a little bit more opportunity to develop, whether that be like more coaching provision, better facilities, better equipment to use, the full shebang, basically, I would say, you know, we'd have a bigger talent pool, for example, for our school to pick our teams. And it just starts even from the grassroots, and it goes all the way through, doesn't it? So yeah, I think that's kind of where I stand on it.
And just finally to you both, I mean, where would you like to see us as a sport be in the next sort of 5 to 10 years? What would your vision be, Rhys?
Oh, that's a big question. I think, or first thing is probably just a better awareness around everyone within the sport about the problems that go on, and then a better understanding of the problems that, I guess, ethnic minorities face. Like you said, Gurmej, I think in your slide in terms of signing up to Hockey All In, and as well as there is safeguarding, having like an ethnic minority briefing. I think that's great, just so that the coaches are aware of it. And and with that awareness coming together and having projects, individual projects that work together, and in working together, providing more opportunities to develop their hockey skills. Because obviously the infrastructure is there in terms of clubs, but it's like we need to get people into the clubs, and to get them, we have to grow their love for hockey. And I think there's a lot of projects going on, but how can we work together to bring people together to basically enhance some of the small projects that are already going on?
Thank you. And Emily?
Yeah, just to echo that, really. I just think, you know, I've been playing the sport for probably about 20 years now. And honestly, I've had my fondest memories on a hockey pitch. My closest friends are those that I've played hockey with. The sport has given me so much. But for me, my vision is that everyone should have the equal opportunity to play our sport in the first instance. And that shouldn't be, you know, based on, you know, what area you're from, your background, your ethnicity, your gender, your disability. Just everyone should have that equal opportunity. And I guess the big thing for me is that link, how we can better link between our fantastic club system that we have in the country, the amazing work that all of our public private schools are doing in offering hockey. And you know, there's no surprise that the higher percentage of, you know, our elite hockey players are from these private schools, because they have the fantastic facilities, coaches, resources on offer. But how can we better use all of this that's going so well and take it, you know, branched out a little bit more to those, you know, state schools and more disadvantaged areas, so that everyone can have that opportunity to get the love that I have and we all have that are on this call, and to make our sport truly reflect what the society that we live in right now.
Guys, you know what, it's just been an absolute pleasure having you both join us today, and I'm sure everyone will really appreciate 2 stars of both the game on and off the field, sharing their experiences. So thank you for being so honest, and just thank you everyone for tuning in tonight as well. I'm sure you'll have questions, and feel free to send them over on Twitter, and I look forward to everyone signing up to the All In movement. So thank you, and good night.
Thank you, Gurmej.
Thank you.